BBC Mark Davis expressed an eagerness to pin down the former minister on the ice. Nelson McCausland blasted Remain voters for their efforts to stall the UK's quest for sovereignty when questioned on the border issue by presenter Evan Davis. Mr. Davis asked, "You voted Leave? Did you know when you voted Leave the nuisance of the whole issue of Northern Ireland was going to be to the Brexit project as the people in Britain might see it?" The former minister responded by ripping into Remoaners. He said, "Well, I think the issue has been inflated by quite a number of people, mainly Remainers, in order to effectively frustrate Brexit. First of all, you have to be clear as to what the problem or the issue is, and I think there is good evidence that we can look at elsewhere of how it might be approached. So, for example, you can look at the arrangements in regard to the EU and Switzerland." Mr. McCausland was then questioned by the Newsnight host on what his suggestion for the UK would be going forward on the Irish border issue. The former minister emphasized that he raised the example of Switzerland as a potential indicator for a solution, but insisted the nature of trade in Ireland had to be considered. "The issue has been inflated by quite a number of people, mainly Remainers, in order to effectively frustrate Brexit," says former Duke Minister Nelson McCausland on the Irish border question. Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Mr. Davis expressed an eagerness to pin down the former minister on the issue as he pointed out both have a physical infrastructure. The presenter exclaimed, "I want to just pin you down, because you've given two models, both of which have borders, manned borders often, not always but often they have physical infrastructure. The Swiss border, as you would have seen on some motorways as great big stations where people stop, they sometimes have queues of trucks. Now, is that your suggestion to what should happen to what is called the Irish border problem?" Mr. McCausland replied by making a brilliant point to Mr. Davis about a potential solution. He replied, "You've picked there on the initial example I gave of Switzerland. I'm saying those are examples of the sort of thing that might be done. Then I said also you could look at the example of between Norway and Sweden. This is not quite the same as Switzerland. If you take Norway and Sweden and look at an enhanced model of that, but also look at the fact much of the trade between Northern Ireland and the Republic, a very large percent of it is actually limited to a small number of companies." Remoaners were torn apart on the latest edition of BBC Newsnight, so you could look for example at having a trusted trader arrangement. You could also consider the fact that I think about half of the companies that deal and trade with Northern Ireland and the Republic are actually micro businesses, and also you need partnership. The Irish border has been a controversial issue throughout the Brexit negotiations, and politicians want to avoid a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. The Irish border has been a controversial issue throughout the Brexit negotiations. The Prime Minister has been wrangling with her so-called Brexit war cabinet over what approach to take, maximum facilitation or a new customs partnership with the EU. Maximum facilitation, otherwise known as MaxFac, uses technology and a trusted trader scheme to keep border checks to an absolute minimum. This is the Brexiteers' favorite plan.